This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Ten rounds down, 2 to go, and it couldn't be more exciting than this. Only 1 point separates our championship fighters heading into today's race. After 2 extremely bumpy tracks back to back, the Lotus 49 community did set sail for the smooth asphalts of northern Italy, where just across the river from downtown Imola sits the Autodromo of Imola, a track deeply connected with F1's history. Being known as an extremely tough track, Imola sure is going to provide a spectacle today. So join us now as we get ready to watch round 11 of the Grand Prix Legends Series live here on the global SimRacing channel via the iRacing eSports Network. The crew to give you all these stats and storylines today will be Joe Peak, joining myself, Stefan Schlacher. Turning knobs and pushing the buttons behind the scenes, our director Sean Rex Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by the great Dougie Beard. It probably goes without saying why Imola is such an emotional track for every F1 fan. Being constructed 6 years after the Lotus 49 era, this car obviously, for obvious reasons, never saw a race here. So, to get everyone up to race speed, let's take you a lap around the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo Dino Ferrari in our GSRC track guide.
Alright, we've got Billy Bob Wright and the GSRC Lotus 49, so let's do a lap around Oulton Park. Down in Old Hall Corner, there's a deceptively late apex here. Turn in too early and you'll find yourself using up the runoff. Up next is Denton's, which is flat out in most cars, but with the 49 you need a big lift to make sure you're on the correct line. Hold off to the right and then ease it around Cascades. You'll need patience before you fully get to the throttle out of here. And yet it's very important to not hesitate too much because it's a decently long run down Lakeside up to Island Bend. If ever there was a corner that requires bravery, this is one. Understeer and... All right, we've got Ben Zocco in the GSRC Lotus 49, so let's do a lap around Imola. Coming down the front stretch, even though Tamburello is a good passing opportunity, the long braking zones in this car means you have to deal with a kinked entry. That just ups the difficulty of an already tricky 3-apex chicane. Try to hug the inside of the second apex to open up the final one, because in the 49, it's not quite flat out. From there, it's a short stretch up to Villeneuve. With its fast entry on the first half, drivers will really be testing the limits and the balance of the car. Switch sides quickly on the exit to line up Tosa. This hairpin will really reveal who is good with their right foot, because finding traction off the corner will make a big difference up this steep hill. And again, unique to the 49, the crest makes the car light, so with a slight curve, you'll be lifting early to set yourself up for Piratella. Getting the nose down to the apex of this bend is deceptively hard. Expect a lot of drivers to be a little wide mid-corner. Then you plunge down into the valley of Aqua Minerale. You're braking through the first half, trying to get the car settled, and then really wallowing up for the second half. Be sure not to go wide on the exit of this corner because iRacing gives you a slowdown penalty if you go too far off track. This is another critical corner exit because up next is the Alta chicane where drivers will often be on the attack. Thing is, I wouldn't recommend going through here too wide because of how narrow and slow the chicane is. From there, you put your right foot down yet again and follow the track downhill towards Ravazza. The downhill braking means that you'll be getting to the binders a little early or else find yourself taking a trip through the gravel. There's just a small squirt of the power into the second part of this corner, but you really need to focus on your run out of here. The pit straight is the longest acceleration zone of the track, so hesitate to the power and you're going to get mobbed by everyone behind you. But hopefully, you kept it all together and have now finished a lap around Imola.
Joe Peak doing what nobody can do better, talking you a lap around the track while driving. Though, Joe, I probably am pretty sure that you missed out a few more details that you want to go over here.
Absolutely, and this is a pretty fun track, honestly, in this car. No, you wouldn't think so, because this car tends to not like chicanes. It is a little bit better at flowing corners, but there's plenty of those here still, so it still feels right at home. You can see there's not many terribly long straights, so passing is going to be difficult today among these 17 turns. It is about 3.5 miles, so it's a decently long, or just over 3 miles rather, so it's a decently long lap around here. But drivers in general should be mostly worried about just trying to keep the car underneath them, because accelerating out of those slower chicanes are probably where you could see issues, because trying to goose it too hard could send it spinning off. And then there's also some really tricky braking zones. This car does not like turning and braking at the same time, so drivers will have to make sure that they've got the brake balance right so that they don't spin it off or accidentally clip the grass. Regardless, I think it should be a stunner, especially if anybody gets out of position, because then trying to get that spot back, Steph, is going to be extremely difficult today.
Yeah, and especially our two championship fighters have to really be wary of that. And obviously, that is still Rob Olenek, who is now in first place, 341 points to his name, 1 point between himself and Roman Paslowski of Germany. Then it's already 12 points back to Mick Claridge, who obviously is not here today preparing for his bike race. Or rather his bike travel around the globe. And we have Michel Dino sitting in 4th place, 97 points right behind, so he's not going to be able to have anything in this championship decider. Same thing with Daniel Sadro, 40 points himself behind 4th place, 131 points in total. Sadro, a little bit off color throughout this season, though still a 5th place is going to be very good for him. Joe, I think it's not as tight in the F2 championship as it is for the win here in F1 championship.
Yeah, not through as far down in the field. It's really been the Bill Tyler Antonio Reese show. Very consistent from both of them and only 9 points apart. Then you look down, Andrew Ang, a whole 92 points back. Mathematically, he could if he won both races and both of them failed to score, but since this is the F2 championship, that's not as likely. If anything, he's got to really guard himself against Colin Coker since he's a little bit behind there and he could maybe have a chance at running him down. And then Andre Bruno rounding out your top 5 in F2. Really, it's all about making sure you get in those solid finishes in this Formula 2 championship. And from what we've seen from both Tyler and Reese, they should be able to do it.
Most definitely should be able to do it. And that is also going to play a little bit into what we will see now in the Nations Cup. Like they had back in the days in real life F1, we're also just counting the nations points because they didn't have constructor championships back then. United States leading that one, as I think we're looking at an old table there. Either way, United States right now leading by about 9 points over Germany, so that did jump around there a little bit. United Kingdom, France, and Portugal, they're still sitting in 3rd, 4th, and 5th. So, yeah, it is still, even there, extremely tight for the top 2, and the others are quite far back there already. So, really, in all 3 championships, it is just those top 2 fighting for that win. As always, only one can win, so it is gonna be really interesting in these last 2 races. Speaking about races, the race details. Joe, how are we looking for today's race?
Well, we are in round 11 out of 12, as you mentioned, so it's the penultimate round. Anybody who wants to make any positions in the championship, of course, they got to be on it today. And we are running 20 laps around this track, so it's going to be a fair few for them to try and put down. Like I said, it's not that long. It's just about right in between for the lap length. It is open setup in this series, and that is important, but this series is also very welcoming. They tend to share setups very freely just because they want to be friendly to the newcomer. They know it's a tough car, and it's mostly down to the driver. Now, they do have penalties. If you hit 17 incidents, you get a stop and go. And if you get up to 25, which is doable around here because they got some paved runoff areas, and, well, chicanes usually mean that you rack up incidents, you will be disqualified if you hit that 25, which means you'll be removed of the track immediately. And right now in qualifying, most everybody seems to actually have their laps in here, Steph, so we've got most of them on the board.
Yeah, and Michel Dino right now sitting in 1st place, Rob Olenek 2nd place. But interestingly, Roman Pawlowski, he did put in a qualifying lap of a 2-minute 5.66. I'm seeing here on the laps tab, but on the standings sheet there isn't one scored for Roman, so he's gonna start second to last. That's gonna be 23rd position right now in this 24 car field, and Rob Olenek completely at the opposite end. This sure is gonna tighten up that, or gonna make that battle much more interesting, as we have to watch 2 ends of the field.
Brendan Cleveland, I see, is the only one still working on a lap, and he's got a 43.3. Let's see what his second one's going to be. 42.8. So a nice little improvement. That gets him up to 15th. We're only missing those 2 cars, Pawlowski and Reynolds, as we're done with qualifying.
Yeah, and that is already it. So that means Michel Dino is going to be your pole sitter for today. Only about 1400th of a second there between himself and Rob Olenek in 2nd place, over Train Grade 3rd, with Peter Mikus, the number 3 car, going to be sitting in 4th place on the grid. Dave Price, 5th place for him, with Bill Tyler sitting in 6th. Arnaud Chabanez in 7th. Daniel Sadler, 8th place for him. Not the best qualifying from him. Sure is going to look to improve on that in the race, with Bruce Nelson sitting in 9th. And David Rossi rounding out your top 10 of this field.
Andrew Ang starting 11th today, rather. Antonio Reese in 12th there for that F2 championship. Ian Hoffman will be P13. Then you've got Chris Murakami in the 14th spot, and Brendan Cleveland, who we saw pop up in the dying stages, to 15th. Robert Plumley will be starting P16, followed by Colin Coker. Just behind him in 17th to his outside, it's Marco Ravioli. And then Matt Yeomans in 19th. Trent Hughes is 20th today.
Rodney Evans, your penultimate car that it put in lap, is in 21st, with Dom Peak 22nd, and thus the last car that did put in a qualifying lap. Roman Paslowski, as mentioned, is gonna start on the opposite end of Rob Olenek. He is starting in 23rd, and last on the grid will be lining up Robert Reynolds, the number 22. The engines already harmonizing. Green flag is out. Great start by Michel Dudino. Rob Olenek also equally great on the grid, and I think everybody quite easy off the line already. A little bit of double file there, 2x2 for second and fourth, but single file as they hit Tamburello for the very first time.
A little bit of side-by-side in the back half of the field, but very patient from everyone. This is good to see. It's tough braking here into Villeneuve, though. This is where I expect some problems because you can lose the car so easily if you overdrive it.
A lot of cars still quite gingerly on the throttle out of Villeneuve as they for the very first time head up the hill through this hairpin at the south end of this track. I don't think anyone had any incidents thus far in this first lap, so great driving, very behaved thus far from all of them.
Yeah, this is what I tend to expect from the series because the drivers really do want to make sure everybody gets through. It's hard enough trying to race the car by yourself, so nobody's willing to throw it away just in the first lap. Looks like Michel Dudignon's got a good handle on things as well. Oh, spin.
Oh! Peter Mikus, the number 3 car with some problems through Variante Alta.
Also threw off Antonio Reese there. Oh no, Reese is losing a ton of positions because he had to take evasive action. This is not good for his championship hopes.
So this is going to be really interesting now to see what happened there with Mikus and then also with Reese. There we have Mikus now on the chopper. That we're on board now with Antonio Reese, who is going to come through, and yeah, that was just extremely unlucky with Reese also on the cold tires having his mistake himself. I think he was actually able to avoid Mikus there, but obviously he lost a lot of spots there.
Yeah, he definitely didn't hit him. He just he got caught out seeing the car sideways and didn't want to hit him and spun it. So we're back up to the leaders here. You talked about the cold tires. They're not going to be cold for long. It's 100 degrees Fahrenheit on the track surface, so it's going to get a little bit slippery.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't the cold tires, but actually already the 2 hot tires that caught both of them out there. One on the brakes, one on the throttle. Very bad luck for both of them, as Rob Olenek seems to have really closed in on Michel Dudino through his middle part of the track as they make their way up to the highest point, Variante Alta, once again with those extremely high curbs.
Yeah, thankfully this car can take those curbs. It's just the second one really you don't want to hit too hard because you want them all 4 wheels on the ground, be able to just push that power down as solidly as possible so you get a good run down here to Ravazza, because this is a place where passes can happen.
Yeah, most definitely, but I think with this Lotus 49, or at least I've experienced that right-hand kink down into Ravazza, that really can be a little bit troublesome if you're trying to be on the outside line, trying to be on the inside. And for Ravazza, it's most definitely doable, but you really have to be careful and you have to be given room by the car on the right side.
Oh, definitely. It's only for the brave, but from what we've seen of these top 3 drivers, and you know, I've raced against them for quite a while, it's they are brave. They are willing to make those sorts of moves if it means a race win. Right now, that looks like what's on the cards here, because these 3 have not separated.
No, they haven't separated whatsoever, but one thing is they have separated extremely well already from 4th on back. The gap is already up to about 4.5 seconds between Ovid Trengrate and 4th place David Price. Giving you a little bit of an update already on Roman Pawlowski, who's sitting already up to 8th place, starting from 23rd on the grid. That is quite a run in just 2 laps.
Yeah, he just made the pass into Tosa just now. That's Bruce Nelson you see behind him. That's another spot where it's difficult but doable to make passes. It all depends on how you set it up. And boy, he's pushing. You saw he almost went wide there through Aqua Minerale. That's a place you got to be careful, Steph. There's a slowdown penalty if you go too wide off that corner.
Yeah, and also right here at Variante Alta, if you go too far to the outside after that artificial turf is over, there is a slowdown penalty that awaits you. And as I said, you can really see how Roman Paslowski is pushing. He knows what's on the line here for him with that bad qualifying. But he has already moved up to 8th place, and I think he has a better drop result right now then he is in position 8 right now. So if he doesn't move too much further up, he still is in the hunt, but it's going to make it way harder come the last round. And the North Drive, and that's almost spinning in front of him. He is able to avoid everyone else. That was our North Chapman, a new driver in this series.
Lost it under braking. So easy to do down in Tamburello. That's one of those curved braking zones I was talking about. What's interesting is he didn't touch the grass as to what spun it. It was just he got too hard on the brakes, and I guess he panicked and must have stamped him because around she went even before he turned in.
Yeah, that was either on the brakes or on the downshift. I didn't really hear it into the engine there. Either way, though, he locked his rear brake, spun him around, and he is now sitting in 10th place. So at least he only lost about 3 positions. What this has done is that Daniel Sadger got moved a little bit more back towards Roman Paslowski, who's already on the hunt for that 6th place.
Boy, he caught Sadger very quickly. So Sadro's got to be aware of that. And from what I've seen from Sadro racing in a few series on here, I don't think he's going to fight too hard this early on. If Roman gets a run on him, probably not going to defend that much. Just let him have the position and be on his way. Especially because just in front of Daniel, you've got Tyler. And oh no.
With problems alongside with Arnaud Chabanez. So something happened once again to the 11 car. That was at Variante Alta. Let's have a look at what happened to those.
Yeah, they both wound up in the barriers from that, so big damage. There must be something wrong with Arnaud's setup because he lost it under acceleration this time. The car was not looking good, and there was just not much place for Andrew to go.
Yeah, no, I think that one was most definitely on Arnaud. He had a mistake into Variante Alta and then just on the throttle, a little bit of a thunderfoot from him. Sadly collects Andrew Ang with that. So those two are off. Atop the charts though, we seeing Michel Didignon still closely challenged by Rob Olenek in 2nd place. And over train rate starting to drop off a little bit. The classic car veteran, you could say. A Norwegian driver in 3rd place, already about 1.5 seconds back.
Sorry, there was a bit of a mistake from Michel coming through Aqua Minerale. Almost spun the car. I think he caught it, and Olenek wasn't quite close enough to take advantage, but you can see he's gone defensive here into Alta now.
Has worked there for Michel Didignon with Rob Olenek a little bit too hard over the first curb, loses his car, and thus he loses a few meters yet again to the Frenchman up ahead. But in reality, right now I would say Rob is in perfect condition here to just sit back, relax, and enjoy the show a little bit for these next few laps, because he knows that Roman Paslowski right now in 5th place has to make the moves, and that is more dangerous than Rob Olenek.
And there you go. I mentioned it shouldn't take him too long, and Roman's already past Sadro. Let's see where this happened, because I missed this.
It happened already about a lap ago. There we go. Down into Tamburello. Yes, exactly. Just perfect run-up from Roman Paslowski. Was a great setup already out of Rivazza, and then I think that was Sadger just giving the position to him there, knowing what is written on the wall.
So up to P5. He's got about 3 seconds to get up to Price. That'll take a little bit, but looks like he's got better pace than Price as it's been. So I expect him to be able to take that. Sounds like we got some action down in 12th, though, in the mid-pack. Cleveland and Reese have got a little bit of a tussle going on.
Yeah, and they are just in front of our birthday boy. That's Robert Plumley, the Twitch streamer. I'm not sure if he's streaming right now. Haven't checked his stream out. Either way, he's sitting in 14th place. Robert Plumley making his way up now the hill as he's watching on. And popcorn precision, this battle between Antonio Reese and Rennie Cleveland.
Yeah, and this is going to be important for Antonio to try and get this spot and move up because Bill Tyler is a long ways up from him. Bill's up in 7th. Antonio down in 13th, trying for 12th. Defensive move from Cleveland. Yeah, I was going to say, going too wide through Alta, not usually a good idea, so it's probably smart that he backed out there.
Yeah, that was all set up by a mistake from Cleveland out of Aqua Minerale. Just Antonio Reese. I don't know, probably just not really wanting to push it that far right now. Let's see if he's able to set up. Oh, Plumley misses his braking there for Rivazza. Antonio Reese, great setup, but a little bit too heavy off the curb there, and thus loses a slight little bit. Doesn't give him a good run, so we jump back up to the lead where Rob Olnick once again tucked underneath the gearbox of the Frenchman, Michel Dino.
Big bobble coming off the corner, though. You can tell that they're trying to get everything they can out of the car and really get the throttle down. And then up through here is actually trickier than it looks because you're accelerating and turning all the way out of Piratella until you get down to the braking here in Aqua Minerale. I find it tough to get the foot all the way down through there.
It really is tough. You have to be extremely brave. You have to be on the right line. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to be flat out, if you're even able to be flat out, even with the right line. There's once again a wiggle from Rob Olnick on the brakes, pushing very hard, even though he doesn't have to, but seems like that win is just too tempting as they're running up to Robert Reynolds, who they are going to be lapping right now through. Rivazza goes all the way to the outside. Great move by Robert Reynolds, not going to hold up those two. A little bit of a hold up to Ovid Trengray, but he's not going to in this battle anyway.
Series regulars have nicknamed him Back Row Bob, and he doesn't seem to take offense to it. He knows that he's a bit of a back marker. Still, Olenick's been taking peeks here and there. I saw him take a look down into the Alta chicane. Didn't quite have it close enough to really make it stick, but look at him here. He's less than a car length back now.
Yeah, I would nearly say the drop is looking stronger than Michel Dino right now. That's something that you don't will hear very often on these broadcasts in the Lotus 49 community. As Michel Dino, one of the fastest, if not the fastest guy in this car, as once again, a little bit of a wiggle there by Michel Dino. Wonder if he's feeling those 100 Fahrenheit on the track as he's being chased by Rob Olnick.
I'm not sure it's the temperature he's feeling so much as the pressure from Robbo here, as he is not backing down. Now, there's two sides to this coin. When you follow this closely, as he almost gets into the back of him, that's one of them right there. You run the risk of getting tangled up if the driver in front of you makes a mistake. But also, when you follow that much closer, you set yourself up for a much easier time trying to get a pass executed.
Both of them extremely sideways there out of Variante Alta. This gives a little bit of a run to Rob Olnick. Will he take it to the left side of Michel Dino? No, he takes the wide entry. Both of them slide on the apex. No run given to Rob, as now Michel Dino once again a little bit of a slide, but he gets the better run out of the second part of Rivazza.
Like I was saying, it's possible to make those passes, but it's very tough, as we're gonna watch a pass by Antonio here up to Piratella. Does he make this into Aqua Minerale? Yeah, just a little bit wide, and Cleveland opens the door. He's not gonna ask for it twice. That's brave, but fair stuff there from Reese.
That was a great overtake by Reese, really showing that he is capable of making those decisive moves if he has to. And as we were saying earlier, he did seem to wait a little bit there. He already had a chance at overtaking Brandon Cleveland there at Variante Alta, but yeah, he waited and the opportunity presented to himself.
Up at the front here, there was a no! Michel with a big slide into the corner, and this might be the pass for the lead here, Steph.
Yeah, Rob Olnick goes to the left side. That's going to be the outside for the double right-hander at Aqua Minerale. Though they are still side by side, Rob Olnick with the better exit. Now also Ovid Trengray back in the battle, and he has taken the lead over for the very first time in this race from the Frenchman Michel Dino. But the Norwegian in third place, now looking very hot at the heels of Michel.
Save that replay. You don't often see passes in Aquaman or Raleigh, let alone around the outside. Rob really knew he had his work cut out for that one. And fair play to both of them. They gave each other space, but look at how much this has allowed Trangrade to catch them. It's a 3-car fight once again.
Yeah, Trangrade was already about 2 seconds back on those two, so really did help them up. Aquaman Rally, not the easiest way to pass the outside, but Rob Olenek showing that you can do that even in a Lotus 49. Last lap, much indeed, or 2 seconds slow from Michel Dino then over Trangrade, as once again, a little bit of a wiggle there by Michel Dino. Seems like he's really feeling those 100-degree Fahrenheit on the track.
And I expect Ove to be aggressive here because we saw him fall back. You know he's not going to get too many great opportunities. Already starting to look like he's going to lose some ground. So I expect him, if he sees any sort of chance, he's going to stick his nose in, try and make a pass on the Frenchman here.
Still being a little bit trailed by that over Trangrade red machine number 10. But it seems like that over Trangrade is starting to lose out to them already once again, as they are single file and not battling at the moment. One thing we know is, Joe, that Michel, he is extremely well situated in that about last third of the race, so even though Rob might look stronger right now than Michel, it's sure as hell isn't over.
Yeah, and I was kind of wondering about that a little bit earlier, about the differences in setups, if maybe some drivers will be quicker at the end. Because we saw Trangrade start to drop off, and it seemed like the car just didn't have the pace in it. Now that he's caught up, you can use a little bit of slipstream down the front stretch, but it's not really that big of a factor here. And there you go. Right? You can see him coming off the corner. It seems like in those slow turns, accelerating away, Ove just doesn't have that slow speed grip.
Yeah, and also Michel doesn't really look too strong right now out of those slow handers. Really, Rob Olenek did gap him by about 1-2 car length there, just out of Rivazza, so we might have to look a little bit closer at the difference in setup there between Michel Dino and Rob Olenek.
We had a spin with Colin Coker as this was happening. The 23 was off in Alta. It was just a self-spin, so I don't know if we really need it, but just an update there on his race.
I think he actually did. Tono, there he is. He's now coming out of Rivazza in 16th place, so he only lost one position to Trent Bus. So not too much damage done to Colin there. As these three are going through Aqua Minerale for the 11th time, we're going to have a look back at Roman Pawlowski, who has already caught up to Dave Price, setting sail for 4th place, the German driver of Pawlowski is.
Up through Aqua Minerale here. I said I figured he would try and close down on Price, and it looks like that is true. And let's stay on this, but we've seemed to have lost Colin Coker now. So not sure what happened. I'll have to go back and check on that here in a second.
So his race went from bad to worse. Colin Coker with that latest mistake out of the race. Roman Pawlowski, though, really closing in on that braking zone down to Rivazza, the first left-hander done. Second one sets it up quite nicely. You have to be careful to not get a slowdown on the exit there. He doesn't get that one, but once again, quite a great exit by Dave Price, streaking away about 2 car lengths from Roman Pawlowski, and that obviously denies Pawlowski any chance to make something happen into turn one.
Yeah, I went back and looked, and it was a little too hard on the loud pedal. Just out of this chicane right here in Tamburello, that last apex, he goosed it too hard and wound up in the wall. Is no such problem for these two. In fact, Pawlowski was very strong and took a look up to Villeneuve. Again, it's tough into that corner, so I didn't expect him to really try a pass in there.
Though my eyes did light up when I saw Pawlowski go through Tamburello, that third apex, he pretty much cut all of that off. Extremely narrow line from him, risking everything and more. So yeah, he most definitely is extremely pushing behind Dave Price to get past and get himself situated in that 4th place. Has a lot of a wiggly exit there once again by Pawlowski out of that left-hander now through Aqua Minerale, and once again just not getting really that grunt he needs out of the low revs of his engine.
Yeah, like I was saying, it's so tough to pass here. Honestly, you have to kind of set the car up. You really got to make sure and position yourself with a good exit out of the right corner, and then hope that the other guy doesn't go defensive on you, because it can be easy to defend here if you know how to do it right. Now, that said, it's also easy to go over defensive when you don't need to be and give yourself the wrong line, because if the other driver is savvy, they can use that against you.
Most definitely. David Price, though, right now doing everything right that he has to do to keep ahead of Roman Pawlowski, but we know the German very well, and he is not one to sit behind you very long. Tries to take every single advantage that he can get, and once again, just a much narrower line through the third apex of Tamburello. Looks to the left side of Dave Price, but Dave Price still strong on the brakes. Oh,
Yeah,
that's a mistake.
Yeah, and I think Roman might try it up here in Atosa once again, though. Defensive line. Price knew it. All he had to do is cover it off as Roman takes it in way too hot.
He tried to straighten up the apex there a little bit too much for the exit. Pays the price for that. Loses his car twice. And with that, once again, a little bit wide, a little bit sideways. And that means he's now once again 6/10 behind fourth place of Dave Price.
It was a great illustration of what I was just talking about. As soon as he saw that he made that mistake, Dave covered him off, didn't give him the chance to get his nose in. He didn't have to do it much, just enough to prevent him from being able to take the desirable line. And you can see how much of an effect that had, with Pawlowski falling back to nearly a second behind him. He's got to do that work all over again.
And since this battle has cleared up a little bit, let's move up to the front again, where we still have Michel Dino right tucked under that gearbox of Rob Olenek, but as pretty much expected, overtrain rate has fallen behind again. Little by little, he's losing out to those top two guys. And yeah, just it seems like third place is going to be the maximum that train rate can get from this race.
Yeah, he's lost his opportunity. What he's really got to hope for now is that Michel is going to go back on the attack. But I almost wonder if Michel is kind of waiting patiently, even though they have 7 to go. If they can stretch a few more tenths over Ove, then that'll keep them from being caught by him and make it a 3-car fight again, because they saw that happen so quickly before. He really doesn't want to complicate things for the lead.
Yeah, Michel Didino most definitely knows that he has to wait to not get that Norwegian driver back up to him again. Also, by the way, overtrain rate. I wonder how much he's struggling with the heat on the track right now. I mean, it has cooled down by 1 degree Fahrenheit now, just down to 99 degree Fahrenheit. So much cooler already. But we know that overtrain rate likes to have his setups always that little bit more loose than your average Lotus 49 driver.
And that can bite you when it's this hot. That's a good point. So I'm amazed at how well he handles the car this loose. Let's go back to P4, though, because, I thought we were going to have the pass on Roman. Roman had so much better of a run out of Alta that he actually had to get on the brakes to keep from running into Price.
Yeah, I was going to also cue that up. But yeah, Roman Pawlowski, great driver, great awareness there. Hits the brakes to not hit the car in front of him, Dave Price, but now he's really close to Dave Price. That might be the writings on the walls for another driver as the UK and I, Dave Price tries to go to the left side of the fence into Tamburello. That's going to be the inside for the first apex. He's able to brake later, has to slow down more for the apex, makes it quite nicely. A little bit wide out of the second apex. That might give the run once again to Roman Pawlowski. Let's see, into Villeneuve. He takes the left line. Only the outside line is going to be open for Roman Pawlowski, but he's not able to take that one either. Once again, a better setup for Pawlowski, but takes too much off the curb, and thus no run given once again.
I get the sense that it's only a matter of time before we see an ultra-aggressive move. That or just a mistake from Price, and it's going to be handed over on a silver platter to Roman. But we've been seeing increasingly risky poking his nose into corners that you wouldn't normally see passes into from Roman.
Yeah, Roman, not one that is overly aggressive normally. Yes, he does do his aggressive move, but only when he knows that he is gonna make it stick. And thus far, it seems like he's ramping up that aggression more and more because he knows that what is on the line here for him, because Rob Olenek still leading this race ahead of Michel Dino. That means that there's a big point gap that is gonna open up for that last race between those two.
Once again, trying to make the pass in places where it's going to be very tough. That first apex there, he really should have set himself up for this one, because that cost him, and now he's just way too far back unless we see a wild dive bomb down in here, which is possible. And nope, he's going to stay behind for now.
Yeah, but Dave Price once again a little bit more to the inside. That does leave him with an extremely wide exit here. But that shallow entry into the third apex of Tamburello is not going to do him any bad either. So, yeah, I'm still going to say Dave Price does everything right he has to do to stay in this fourth place.
And some more lap traffic. That might be the thing that Roman needs here, is just finding a car that they're having to zip by with the blue flags. Catch Dave off guard when he's snapping a little, trying to overtake that lapped car and send one through. A lot of times that can really open up the door.
Sorry, something happened to Ove Trangerate. He lost about 11 seconds in this lap. He's now 12.5 seconds back on Michel Dudignon and Rob Olenek, and only 5 seconds ahead of Dave Price. Another mistake for Ove Trangerate through Variante Alta. I wonder if he has picked up somewhere some damage that is hindering on running his line.
Yeah, I was just talking about that lap traffic. He got into the back of Don Peak, unfortunately.
Here comes Ron Paslowski around the outside through the kink up to Rivazza. He's on the inside for Rivazza. Dave Price loses his car, able to avoid Ron Paslowski. Paslowski with that up into fourth place.
Oof. Scary moment for Dave. It's a good thing that he managed to keep out of him. And that was just a case of, I think, under braking. He was braking way too hard and put it on the curb, so the car went out from underneath him. Great catch, though, keeping it from sliding any farther into the German there.
Yeah, and once again, this pass was set up by a much greater exit out of Variante Alta from Roman Paslowski over Dave Price. And I wonder if Dave Price also got a little bit caught out by that move from Roman Paslowski into the right-hand kink up to Rivazza. So, yeah, either way with that, Roman Paslowski up to fourth place, and wouldn't be surprised to see him try to catch Ove Trangerate, who, I don't know, Ove Trangerate, it seems like he is most definitely slow right now. I wonder if he has some damage that is making him this slow right now.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he got damage from the contact he made with Peak, but we got a bit of a battle brewing here between Murakami, Reese, and Hoffman. And again, Formula 2 championship implications with Reese, because he's trying to catch up to Bill Tyler, limit how many points he's losing, and make sure that he has an at least a little bit easier time of keeping in touch for the final round.
Bill Tyler still sitting in 7th place, about 20 seconds ahead of Antonio Reese in 11th place. I guess at least the top 10 would be quite nice for him. I don't think that they are going to be able to catch up to David Rossi, who is already about 7 seconds ahead of these guys here. So Antonio Reese looking strong out of Alfa Minerale up to Variante Alta, though the great defensive move by Chris Murakami, who outbreaks himself a little bit into the chicane, gets a great launch of it though. So Antonio Reese has to stick behind for another time, slow through the right-hand kink for Chris Murakami. You can take much more speed through that one, Chris. Don't have to slow down that much.
Yeah, but I think it's what I was talking about before. They're both looking at right here. That second apex is where you got to be good on the power. And I think it was much better for Reese because he's closing in and he's going to go side by side here.
But he lifts, and once again, Chris Murakami is going to be in front, heading into Tamburello. Jan Hoffman not able to do anything. There's a car spun ahead of them. That's Rodney Evans. That's a lapped car. Hopefully he's gonna give room to everyone. Yes, and he did. Great stuff by Rodney Evans there. Doesn't hold up anyone, or at least holds up everyone equally.
And as this is happening, not only has Pawlowski started to catch up to Trangrade, Dave Price has run Roman right back down. So we might have a three-way fight to figure out the last step of the podium here soon.
Oh, Antonio Reese is side by side now with Chris Murakami heading up to the left-hander. Can he make it happen? He's on the inside now, Chris Murakami, with more momentum, as also Jan Hoffman now gets bogged down behind those two. Chris Murakami on the outside has to give up the fight. He's now down to 11th place.
Good move by Antonio, finally getting that done, but he's got to stay solid for these last two laps, and that's certainly going to help with that mistake from Murakami. Hoffman might get a spot. Are we 2 positions down for Chris here? Outbreaks him into Alta. Yeah, wow.
Great line by Jan Hoffman, by the way, through Variante Alta, really deep into the first one, but still able to get quite nicely on the power for the second one. So with that, Hoffman into 11th, Antonio Reese 10th, and sad Chris Murakami loses 2 positions in just a matter of a few corners. Up ahead, though.
This has got to be a horrible feeling. Sorry for Trangrade. He knows he's slower than Roman at this point because he's been watching that F3, no doubt. And with only 1 lap to go, Roman's going to have the bit between his teeth. And I think at least the pass attempt is going to be made. Now, whether a pass is made, that's the real question.
Last lap was 2 seconds slower from Ove Trangrade over Roman Pawlowski, who himself, by the way, was about 1.6 seconds slower than the fastest lap of Rob Olenek, who he put in that last lap, 39.111. You saw it on top of your screens. So Roman Pawlowski, 3rd place. If he's able to take this one, that's as far as he will go. But it's not over until the checkered flag has flown. By the way, we're already on the last lap with our leaders. They have already entered lap number 20. Rob Olenek still leading, but half second in front of Michel Dino as they head into Tamburello.
That was a big slide on screen from Roman, and that actually might have been it. This was going to be his best chance coming down to Tamburello, and he threw that one away.
So I wouldn't write that 3rd place away for Roman Pawlowski yet, because look at how much slower Ove Trangrade is into Tamburello with that damaged front of his car. Roman Pawlowski right again back on that rear engine.
Yeah, but I think Roman's overdriving it a bit. I'm watching the car now. It's sliding a whole lot. He's trying to drive it too hard into the corners when you really want to drive it hard off the corner is what you need. You need to set it up, square it off like right here out of Tosa, and it's just not happening. It'll take something special for him to get the spot from here.
As our 2 leaders are heading into Variante Alta, they're starting to also catch some traffic, so that might also be interesting between those 2. As they are now heading down into Rivazza. Peter Mikas is the car that they are gonna lap through those 2 left-handers. Or actually, it seems like he will not be lapped unless he chooses to be lapped. As Rob Olenek comes out of Rivazza, still in 1st place, unless he runs out of fuel. That's gonna be the win for him, and sure enough, Rob Olenek gonna take the win here in Imola.
Still on for 3rd. Roman tries to send it in deep. It's too little too late unless he gets a bad exit out of Trangrade.
Well, it's a great exit from Trangrade, but we might still see Roman Pawlowski be able to overtake him because of the damage that Ove Trangrade has, though the line comes way too fast. Ove Trangrade is safe in 3rd place. Great drive, though, from Pawlowski from 23rd up to 4th place.
Tyler was not totally safe here. We didn't really cover this, but Snelson was chasing him all the way to the line. So Tyler manages 7th. It could have been worse on the way back to Reese, who's looked like he's going to take 10th.
Wow.
Plumley's in a mood here.
Yeah. That was quite an attempt there from Plumley. I rather think Brett Bulls was a little bit slow there. Either way, Robert Plumley seems to be able to get him in 15th place unless something happens to Trent Buss ahead of him. Let's see, Trent Booth a little bit gingerly out of Rivazza, but he's able to keep his car together. Thus, he's going to finish in 14th place. With that, the last few cars are going to trickle over the line, so we're just going to step away for a few moments to take a breather, but we will be quickly back for the post-race show where we will run you down the finishing order, talk to some of the drivers, and close off an eventful race. So don't step away too far, as GSRC will be back after these messages. We welcome you all back to the Grand Prix Legends post-race show streaming to your home on the global SimRacing channel via the iRacing eSports Network. And Rob Olenek, great race from him, started in second place, able to overtake Michel Dino to take home that first place. And that's a vital victory for him in this hunt for the championship over Roman Paslowski. Michel Dino, as mentioned, finishes in second place with Overtrain Great not being able to challenge them whatsoever throughout the race, then having a run together with Don Good. He finishes thankfully in third place, 22.9 seconds behind your winner of Rob Olenek, Roman Paslowski. He did try his best. It didn't work for him though to get past Overtrain Great, so he finishes only in fourth place. Really, it's not only because he started in 23rd position. Dave Price finishes a great 5th place with Daniel Sadler's 6th. Bill Taylor comes home 7th place, beginning his lead over Antonio Rees in the F2 Championship, with Bruce Snelson finishes in 9th place. Bruce Nelson 8th, David Rossi 9th, and Antonio Rees takes home a 10th place finish.
And Hoffman with 11th. Bit of a quiet one for him. Didn't see a whole lot of him out there. A little bit of a battle with Chris Murakami towards the middle of the race, who took 12th, with Brendan Cleveland finishing in 13th. Trent Buse finished P14, up from 20th on the grid. So nice little climb for that number 21 car. Robert Plumley was 15th today. Peter Mikus gridded 4th and wound up 16th. Bad day for him with that first lap. Marco Ravioli was the last one on the lead lap. Don Peak, first one a lap down, with Evans in 19th and Robert Reynolds in 20th. But looks like we've got our winner waiting to talk to you here.
Yeah, Rob Olenek joins us in the booth for this one. Rob, first of all, congrats on your win. Obviously, you must be extremely excited, and not only because winning it, but it also means that you're in the best shot for the championship in 1 week's time.
Yeah, that sounds good. This was a nerve-wracking race. This was, I think, the first time I've ever beat Michelle straight up. Like, there's always something that happens. He gets unlucky, and I get wins versus him that way. But this one, I felt like we had equal pace for the first time ever, and that's very difficult to do. And it felt great. It was so nerve-wracking trying not to make a mistake. I knew I wasn't getting away from him. It just wasn't happening. I was like, it's a really hard track to pass on. I just got to hit my marks. And that's all I was trying to do the rest of the race.
Yeah, and you managed that very well. Despite the conditions out here today, 100-degree Fahrenheit on the track, how did it feel out there, especially being hunted down by Michelle?
It felt pretty good, actually. I mean, the beginning of the week setting the car up, it felt awful, and I just been tweaking it all week long. I felt really good in last night's race. I almost got into the zone, and didn't change anything since then. But I don't know. I mean, I definitely maybe it's just getting used to the track, more laps, and just getting used to it. It's a little slick and driving it, but I definitely adjusted the setup to make it just a little more stable as the week was going. Minimize mistakes, sacrifice maybe a little speed, but I think it's faster anyway. Just when you're hitting your marks, and one little mistake when the car's just set up a little too aggressive just sets you way back.
Well, Rob, for your last question, obviously we have to talk a little bit about the championship. You're gonna head in with a nice buffer over Roman Pawlowski into his home race at the Nordschleife. How are you going to go up throughout the week up to that race? Obviously, Lotus 49, Nordschleife, that's quite a combination, and especially as it being the last week to decide it all.
I love the car there. I think I've been pretty unlucky there. I have pretty good pace there, and it's not going to be me versus Roman. I'll tell you that. It's just going to be me versus the track and keeping it clean. And Michelle's got insane speed there. Like, I know the last time we were there, just untouchable. I don't know how we can go that fast, but we'll see. I mean, it is what it is. You know, I'm just going to try and have a good race. I love that track, so I just want to do well at that track. So hopefully I do well and I win the championship. That would be awesome.
Well, best of luck to you, Rob. Hopefully we're going to see you in 1 week's time at the Nordschleife. And once again, congrats on today's win.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys.
Rob Olenek talking to us there. Now it is Antonio Rees talking to Chopik.
Yeah, Antonio wound up taking home a 10th today, but I'm sure he would have wanted a little bit more. It seemed like the first lap kind of set up how things were going to go for you, Antonio, because you got caught a little bit out. Tell us about what happened there, trying to avoid the accident in front of you.
Hello, good night, guys. Good night, everyone. Congratulations to Rob. Oh yeah, that chicane, it's kind of did my race losing a lot. I lost a lot of positions there, and then it was kind of very disappointing. And then I was just climbing up again, but couldn't finish better than 10th place. So I was looking for challenge Bill, but no way.
Yeah, unfortunately, that puts you, I believe, about 17 points behind come the final round here. That's a tall ask to try and take the F2 championship away from him. Do you still feel like it's possible as we head off to the Nordschleife?
Possible, for sure. Always possible. I will fight till the last day.
That's a good attitude. I like that racer's attitude to try and at least give it all the way to the checkered flag. But speaking of the Nordschleife, we just heard Steph talking to Rob a little bit about it. Do you consider that one of your stronger ones, or is that one that you struggle at?
Yeah, it's the one that I struggle. I have no much. I don't know the track well. I don't do a lot of that track racing or practice. So it's going to be some working week. Yeah.
Well, at least you've got a full week to try and get as many laps in as possible. Try to take it to Bill. Anybody you'd like to thank for today's race?
Yeah, thanks for the sponsors for this broadcasting, and to all the guys that participate, and to you guys to broadcast. Yes.
All right. Well, thanks for coming and talking to us. That was Antonio Rees, second in the championship, the F2 championship, and 10th out on track today. Steph?
Yeah, and that already was everyone that wanted to talk to us. Obviously, they're all gonna need to be rehydrated again with those hot temperatures out here today. So, in 1 week's time, GSRC will return once again with the Grand Prix Legends Series live here on the iRacing Esports Network, who we also would like to thank once again for having us on their talent lineup to bring you the greatest shows on iRacing into your home. Make sure to like and especially subscribe to their channel if you haven't done so yet. On top of that, we'd like to thank everyone on the track today for a great show, and especially Lotus 49 community for contracting with GSRC to broadcast it. Right now on your screen, you can see all of the companies that provide us with their great hard and software GSRC uses to deliver you the best possible show. Additional thanks goes to June Lalonde, who provides us with her great masterpieces. See the screen for how to get hold of more of her great work. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, please visit us at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also find us on the show's social media platforms, Twitter with @GSRChannel, Facebook at facebook.com/globalsimracingchannel, on Instagram at GSRC_brand. All of the upcoming races for our other series are now sliding across your screen, so check them out and mark them down in your calendar to not miss another second of exciting racing action. Finally, on behalf of the entire crew, Sean, Joe, and Dagi, I'd like to thank you all for tuning in as Rob Olnick took away the victory here in Italy. With that said, until next time, stay well and sayonara, and as always, race hard, race clean, and we'll see you on the track.